Deportiva y con swing.
Deportiva y con swing.
La factoría del deporte desde New York para ti. Es una máquina pensada para ti.
Pensada para ti. Número uno en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Con informaciones importantes siempre frescas
Y con entrevistas que te ponen de cabeza.
Lo mejor del deporte lo encontrarás aquí.
Búscale en las redes, dale like y compartir.
Suscríbete,
Ay sí,
infórmate.
ok. Dale a la campana para que te llegue.
Had a great Thanksgiving. And it's good to see all of you again. It's even a better day. It's a great day for the New York Mets. It's even a better day for our fans. Billy has done a great job since joining us 2 Fridays ago. Thanks to the work that he and the baseball operations group have done, we are a better team than we were last season. I can tell you that thanks to them, our lineup just got stronger. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Max Scherzer today. Max, welcome to the Mets. It's great to have you here. Max is one of the greatest pitchers of this and any generation. 190 wins, more than 3,000 strikeouts, 3 Cy Youngs, a World Series ring, and he went 15-4 this past season with a 2.46 ERA. He is a Hall of Famer who knows how to win, and that's a great quality to add to the clubhouse too. Now we get to pair Max with one of the other great generational pitchers, Jacob deGrom. I told you last year I wanted to win, and I talked about sustained winning and winning championships, and I mean it. And I think the Mets today are closer today to that than we were then. We are a better team today than we were 2 weeks ago. Again, Billy, great job. And Max, welcome to New York. Let's go Mets. Thank you. And let me turn it to Billy.
Thanks, Steve. And thanks to everybody for being on today. So, you know, we started this off season. We set out to make a real impact to our club, and Max was at the top of our list. You know, in doing our work on Max, we came to learn that he has a special way of perceiving the game. You know, and in every sense of the word, he's a pro. But with Max, you know, he brings a relentlessness and an obsession to win into our clubhouse, and adds impact to a rotation with a lot of talent. You know, Max's mindset and his expectations are not static. It's not in his nature. And I think that surrounding yourself with people like that, with high achievers, create standards. And it's infectious. He is by every sense of the word, you know, he's an interior leader, a guy that values preparation and work, and most importantly, competition. So, you know, with that, we're thrilled to welcome Max to the Mets and introduce him today. So, with that, I'm going to kick it back to Harold.
Thank you, Billy, and thank you, Steve. Reminder to everybody, if you'd like to ask a question, to use the raise your hand tab at the bottom. And in addition to, of course, Max and Billy and Steve, also available and on today's call is Mets President Sandy Alderson and Max's agent, Scott Boris, who is there with Max. So with that, we're going to begin with going to Steve Gelbs for the first question. Steve, your line's open.
Thanks, Harold. Max, congratulations. Welcome to New York. You know, I was just wondering if you could kind of take us through the decision-making process from your point of view. Obviously, you know, the historic nature of the contract was a driving factor, but Billy, Steve just talked about the competitive nature that you have. Your desperation almost to win. You're known as one of the great competitors in the game. What conversations did you have to have that made you feel confident that you could win here at this stage in your career?
Yeah, I think there's several factors that went into my decision here. First, you know, when I took the Zoom call with Steve and Billy, and you know, got to know those two, and Steve said it's whatever it takes to win here. That he looks at this as he wants to win a championship, and he's going to do whatever it takes to win. So, when you hear that from an owner, you don't hear that from owners too often these days. And when you can finally hear an owner, want to do what it takes to win, obviously, that piqued my interest. Obviously, when you look at the team, I mean, the most obvious thing is, pitching with Jake. I mean, that's an obvious thing that I saw, and then going against those guys, and that they have a pretty good lineup behind that as well. And then additionally, the three moves, and the guy that I kind of know was Eduardo Escobar. Brian Dozier, I played with him on Nats. He was really good buzz with him and raved about how awesome Escobar is. So I don't even know him, but if you're cool by Dozier, you're cool by me. And then honestly, one of the biggest things in this whole calculus of trying to make a decision here was that I live in Jupiter, Florida, and that being able to stay at home and keep my girls are now going to be in school. Brooke's going to be in school a lot longer now in the season, and so by playing in New York, spring training's right in my backyard. Makes it really easy for my kids to be able to. I can still see my kids at a pretty high rate by playing in the NL East. Moving to the West Coast was going to present a real challenge to them. And so at this point in my career, you put all those things together, and that's when I said I'm going to be a New York Met.
Thanks. And Steve, I have one for you. You talked a little bit about what this means to the fan base. Just what do you think a move like this signals to the rest of Major League Baseball?
Well, I think I'm not sure what they're thinking. I'm concerned about the New York Mets, and I'm concerned about the fan base, and I feel like I made a commitment to them, and I want to deliver on that, and that's what I'm concerned about.
Thanks.
Tony DeComo, your line is open.
Hey, everyone. This question is mostly for Steve, but Max, I think maybe you might have a good perspective on it as well. Steve, whether rightly or wrongly, there was a perception before this signing that maybe free agents were a little hesitant to come here for whatever reason. From your perspective, what does this do to change that? And I guess, Max, from your perspective, how attractive is this, taking your own personal circumstances out of it, how attractive is this in general, a place for free agents now?
Well, I guess, I don't know where that narrative came from. We signed 4 free agents within a span of a few days. So whoever, had that thought, I guess they were wrong. Listen, I mean, people have their points of views, right? And we're just going to go about our business and, try to, create the best team we can. And I think, we're well on our way to doing that.
Yeah, I'd say in my career, that clubhouses can change. It only takes a few guys to change it. I've seen it happen many times. Different guys I play with over the years, when they come in, they bring a certain energy, and kind of the whole vibe can change within the clubhouse. And so for me, I feel like the guys that we're bringing in can do that, can obviously change that. It's not just myself and other guys, but the guys who have been brought in the previous year, that the culture can change. And that's a challenge, but a challenge you're willing to meet.
And Max, one more quick one, because I've gotten a lot of questions on this with number 31 and 37 unavailable here. Do you have an idea what you're going to wear?
I'm still sorting through it. I haven't made a final decision yet, but who knows?
Next up is Ed Coleman. Ed, your line's open.
Hey, Max, congratulations. Welcome to New York. I know you know Jake very well from competing against him for years. I just wonder whether you talk with him or touch base with him during this process, and whether that had any influence with you.
Yeah, I called Jake after our meeting just to get a sense of what New York was like, and how he's feeling, everything. Just get a state of where he's at, and came away happy with it, and the dream of pitching with him. We can do some great things together. I've been very fortunate throughout my whole career to have great starting pitchers beside me. I know how powerful that can be when you have guys to feed off of and watch great pitchers. From time in DC to there in the Dodgers to now. I mean, this is a real exciting opportunity for myself to be a part of that. And so I know that's what can win, and that's what can win is starting pitching and pitching overall as well.
Thanks.
Tim Healy will come to you next. Your line's open.
Hey, first for Max, and then a follow-up for the other parties. Max, the Mets were under the impression over the summer that you would have vetoed a trade to the Mets if that were to come to fruition, or if the team started walking down that path. Was that true? And then what changed in the free agency?
Well, it was more coming from the Nationals that over the summer that they didn't want to trade me in division at that time, and I understood it, and I kind of agree with it at the time that if I did, get out of the division but stay in the NL, that was kind of where I was at the trade deadline, and so that really at the time aligned me with teams that were out in the West. It came down to basically San Diego and the Dodgers. But in free agency, it's a whole different animal. You have an off season, the chance to reset, and so for me, all 30 teams were back in play, and so I was not, dictating I was going to be playing in one city or the next. I was waiting to see which teams were interested in signing me.
And then for Steve, Sandy, and Billy, how interested are you guys in adding another starting caliber position player? And then conversely for Steve or for Scott, do you know of any starting caliber position players who might fit the Mets?
Let Billy take that.
Yeah. Ultimately what we're going to try to do is continue to improve the club, right? And that can be done in a number of ways, whether that's done, with another pitcher or two, whether it's starting or relief. Do feel pretty good about this position player group, but want to remain opportunistic as we navigate the rest of the winter, and look for areas that we can improve the club, but also be mindful of some of the things that I talked about in my opening press conference a few Fridays ago, which was not taking away too many future World Series expectations, in the forward-looking years, just to for only a small gain right now. So would want to kind of balance that calculus, but we will remain opportunistic and look for areas to improve the club.
Thank you, Billy. Disha, your line is open.
Hey, Max, Disha Thosar with the New York Daily News. Just what are your thoughts and feelings, if any, about returning to the NL East after 7 years on the other side with the Nationals, and now in part trying to take the division back from the Braves? I imagine those first few games facing the Nationals might be sort of bizarre for you.
Yeah, it was bizarre, but I mean, when you change teams, it's always bizarre. So it's such a weird experience. And I just got a first taste of it, this season, and be able to move to the Dodgers in midseason. I mean, that was completely weird. And first starts against the Astros. So talk about crazy. I feel like in my whole career, I've dealt with, crazy of changing teams. So, obviously it would be the same. It'd be facing Nationals. That's going to be a you wild experience for myself, but, it'd be fun to compete against them. You look forward to those matchups and facing your friends. I mean, baseball makes you do some crazy things sometimes. And this is just another chapter in it.
Thanks.
Tim Britton will come to you next.
Hey, Max, Tim Britton with The Athletic. I know you're pretty involved with the Players Association. And I was wondering if your approach to free agency this winter in particular was different because of the CBA situation, the potential lockout, in terms of what you were looking for, your goals as a free agent, and maybe the timing with which you signed.
Yeah, being kind of at the seat of the table and understanding and hearing the tone of negotiations, the lockout seems, like that's a very likely scenario. Let's just say that. If that's a scenario, you have to make calculations for that and how you want to take free agency down. And so obviously you want to be able to go out there, for teams, you want to sign here before to remove that risk of that if the lockout were to go deep into the offseason here, that free agency would be limited, that you'd be really cramped outside of that. So for me, I looked at it as a chance to be able to have meetings with teams here before the summer 1st, or like today, to be able to have those meetings and be able to make that decision, have this process just end now. So I was able to accomplish that.
And what do you think of Steve's willingness as an owner to spend as much as he has at a time when a lot of other owners are paying very close attention to the luxury tax threshold?
Yeah, I mean, that's a specific thing that we're still negotiating on right now, in that how teams, view that as a cap, and they won't really spend too much over that, despite the penalties on that actually being pretty, negligible comparatively. So to see Steve obviously showed the fortitude to be able to go past it, and show that he's going to do whatever it takes to win. That's music to my ears. I'm still here to win, and you need an owner behind you as much as anybody on the team as well, to be able to go out there and put together a winning team. And so that's the culture right now here with New York, and that's why I'm a Met.
Ken Davidoff, your line is open.
Hi, question for Steve. Steve, just wondering how you got to that 130 figure, just because the AAV just blew past the previous precedent, another one of Mr. Boris's clients, Garrett Cole, and whether you heard from either Rob Manfred or anyone in the commissioner's office, just going so far over the previous high.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure it's comparable. I mean, that was a much longer term contract, right? And so not sure it's apples to apples. That's, the team got together, our baseball ops to people, and made a calculation. And essentially that was the value we had put on Max. In that vicinity, I might have added a little bit more for just brand building. And that's how I got to the number. And but I was going to go over that. I was pretty well. That was it for me. And lucky enough, we held our ground, and we got an agreement.
Did you get any feedback from the industry, be it the commissioner's office or anybody else?
No, actually, it's been pretty quiet. Really haven't heard much, other than what I see on Twitter and all the scuttlebutt there, but pretty quiet otherwise.
And Max, just the flip side of that, just as someone so involved in the PA, the ability to, I understand it's a 3-year deal and Garrett's was 9, but just the ability to move that AAV so high for your fellow players down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I wasn't necessarily setting out to do that, but hey, this is the benefit of it. And so, to be in these situations, you're getting contract talks, and that you're helping out other players as well. That other players are going to be able to use that number in the future. And I've always been I've always been the recipient of somebody else's deal to be able to get my contract. So I'm very aware that that I'm not in a vacuum. It's not that I didn't get this number because I got this number. It's because of other players before me, and that hopefully what I was able to accomplish, that helps out other players in the future as well, and that players as a whole from the game are connected from old to young.
Next question will come from Bruce Beck.
Hey, Max, how much do you embrace the opportunity and the challenge of pitching in New York, and how motivated are you to help this team win their first title in 36 years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the goal. That would be the ultimate dream here, is to go down and win the whole thing. But I'm also, I recognize it. I mean, that just isn't. It takes an absolutely unbelievable effort from now until that time of everybody playing well and being healthy at the same time to reach that dream, because only one team out of 30 gets to do that. But given that, it's for me, it's really going to start here real soon, because it's now December, and that's when you start training to get ready for the season. So this is the fun time of year, is when you really start to get back into the weight room and start running and doing everything it takes to prepare yourself to be at your best. Not now, but in October.
Steve, last year the Mets failed to live up to pretty lofty expectations. So why will this year be different?
Listen, all you can do is put together the best team you can, and go, and it's ultimately up to the players to go out there and perform. And we'll see what happens, right? I mean, we're hopeful. I think we put together a great club. I'm sure we'll hopefully do some other things to improve it further, and then we'll see what happens.
Andy Martino, your line is open.
Hi, Max. I know you're here to talk about the Mets, but it's a unique access for us to someone who's at the table too here today. From your standpoint, a lockout does seem inevitable, and you just kind of confirmed that. But why do you think that is, and from your perspective? And today, what is it? How could you characterize what's most important to the players?
When you look at how the 2016 CBA agreement and how that has worked over the past 5 years, as players, we see major problems in it, and specifically. And first and foremost, we see a competition problem and how teams are behaving because of certain rules that are within that. And adjustments have to be made because of that in order to bring up the competition. And so as players, that's absolutely critical to us to have a highly competitive league. And when we don't have that, we have issues.
Thank you.
Tyler Kepner, your line is open.
Hey guys, I would ask I wanted to ask that question to Max, but I'll also ask it to Scott. Scott, from a player's perspective, representing players, obviously you broke new ground with this deal. But what do you think should change in these in these negotiations?
Well, I think the player's voice is the one where, particularly players like Max, who've been in this league for a long time, and they sense a separation in the league, a dynamic that now exists that didn't exist. And in 2012, when they put the draft cap on, if that's something that everyone felt was best for baseball, they needed to address it with restraints to where how you get draft picks and what you do in the game to acquire them, which is obviously a very valued aspect of it, is that it had a real attack on the integrity of the game, because now nearly half the league is basically looking to next season by June or July so that they can improve their draft status and get valued draft picks. And this is not about anyone that operates in the industry or any team individually that operates in the industry. It's the rules. It's the rules, and it's what drives them to be the best team the next year or even then. And when we have something in our rules that creates non-competitiveness and creates something that drives down fan interest, all those things need to be addressed, and addressed immediately, because the whole integrity and wholesomeness of the game needs to be back to where it was, where there is an incentive to go to the ballpark and win every day.
Brad Heller, your line is open.
Brad Heller, WCBS 880. Max, congratulations. Welcome to the Mets. Going back to your last year with the Tigers, when you essentially bet on yourself, turning down that long-term offer, how would you describe the journey since then? The long-term deal with Washington, the World Series title, those few months in LA, and then now landing with the Mets.
Oh, from that perspective, life's been crazy since then. From my time in DC, of not only signing that deal, but then executing it, of going out there and living up to it and then some. That was fun to be able to pitch underneath that type of pressure. And, obviously now I have a new chapter here, a new type of dynamic in front of me. And so, I really relish to be in these type of opportunities. And, for me, the pressure of this is a privilege. It's not a problem. And so I really enjoy being, where you're expected to win. And so that's what we're here to do. And that's my job, and I love doing it.
Dave Lennon, your line is open.
This one's for Billy, and Billy, I know that you mentioned coming in here with Max mentioned a lot of his qualities, not just not just the pitching wise, but the character wise and the intensity wise. When you came in here as GM, did you identify that as something that had to be improved aside from the talent on this Mets roster? And how much is Max kind of the key to that?
Yeah. So Max, like I said in the opening, brings this like interior leadership that it's not so much by way of how he talks and how he presents. It's going to be by way of examples, and we've seen competitors that kind of let their actions speak. But when you bring in people that are high achievers, it becomes very infectious for the entire group. That's not to say that I gleaned or felt any kind of deficiency. I look at it as kind of like a value add. Just keep doubling down, in that specific, or with that specific mindset towards building a culture, because it takes more than 26. We're going to have a roster of 26, but we know it's going to take more people than that. And one of the things that's really important to me is just how a team connects and comes together and supports each other. And bringing in Max and some others that have been reported. There's a collective theme there for how these guys just go about their business, what kind of teammate they are. And I think that's going to support our club, over the 183 days that we play 162 games. That stuff matters to me. So words matter, actions matter. And so yeah, we're excited to add this group in to kind of double down or add to that.
And Max, you're not really a guy that lets many things slide, not just for yourself, but team-wise. Can you come in as a new guy and really have that effect to bring that kind of intensity throughout the roster?
At this point in time, you don't worry about that. For me, I'm just going to go in and observe the team and see how everybody reacts. You don't have to try to manage everybody and try to be somebody that you're not. I'm just going to go in there and be myself and prepare and do everything I can to go out there and win. So you just kind of let all those things happen. You find the teammates who get along with you and who likes to joke around, because I can definitely talk some trash with anybody. And so you just have fun with it and you see where that goes.
Kaiser, your line is open.
Hey, Max. Welcome to New York. This is for Max and Scott. I am curious how you guys see the sort of free agency action of this past week, really headlined by Max's deal, fitting into the broader labor picture and what the PA is trying to accomplish in these negotiations.
Well, we're trying to make the game better. We're trying to make the game more competitive through various means. There's so many different ways that we, as players as a whole, that we believe that we can make the game better. And we're absolutely committed to doing that. And when I hear that every other player, whether young or old, we're all saying the same thing, clubhouse to clubhouse. So it's not just me that thinks this, it's everybody. And it's obvious to all the players. As for all the signings, this is actually kind of fun to be able to, I'm a fan of the game and watch everybody sign right now. To actually see teams competing in this kind of timely fashion, it's been refreshing because we've seen free agent freezes for the past several off seasons. I know it's been frustrating as a fan to watch that. Like, when are these guys going to sign? And, so to see teams actually, calling and having these calls because there's this this soft deadline, per se, it's actually been, for me, exciting to watch it across the league as well.
I think it's, in baseball, we have a good group of owners who recognize what good business is. These are smart men. They are certainly desirous of doing things that are going to advance their specific franchise. I don't think there's any question about that. But sometimes the rules of the game require them to do things that are not in the best interest of the game, because for them to be a better competitor the next year, they have to do things that the rules direct them to do. And so it is really a system that needs to be reevaluated. We put something into a bargaining agreement that was a relative unknown at the time. It created value and it created direction for operation. And the reality of it is the best intentions of every team is something that I think owners carry out. But the truth of the matter is we have to have a rule setting that always benefits their onus to win every day. And I think if every owner had that direction and it benefited them, they would clearly, they enjoy winning. They would really want to do that. And this market reflects the fact that teams, when they believe it's good business to do so, they will act.
Ron Blum will come to you next. Your line's open.
Hi, Max. Obviously, the veteran players have never been through this before. And if you look at the lost games in 94, 95, you and others who are the multimillionaires are set up to withstand a lengthy work stoppage. How do you and the union leadership persuade the 1,200 or so players making close to the minimum that they could stick it out until deep into 2022 or lose a season if necessary to get what you want?
Yeah, we have a pretty good war chest behind us of money that we can allocate to players that would need fit for certain situations for this, and that's been those decisions have been made behind the scenes. I've been at those tables to make sure that our war chest is as big as possible, knowing for the past 5 years we've been kind of thinking that we need as big as war chest as possible coming into this. So that's the most I can say about that. I'm not looking that we're ever going to tap it. That would be best case scenario is not to tap it. Obviously, hopefully we can get a deal at some point in time. But we are, I just know as players, we're steadfast in that in our belief of how we see the game.
Thank you, Max. Next up will be Jake Seiner.
Hey, Max, congrats on the deal. The question for you is just, have you resumed throwing this offseason since then? I'm going to get the arm fatigue issue in the postseason. Just where are you at kind of physically right now?
Yeah, I took about 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks off, something like that. And started throwing and was able to kind of work through everything. And my arms felt a lot better over even the past kind of week or two. So, I'm in my normal off-season program. I needed to see where my arm was at, make sure there wasn't any damage. There wasn't. I just needed time. Like I said, I overcooked my arm for a situation. I went past kind of my work capacity what I was built up for. Unfortunately, that happened. I didn't foresee that happening, but it did. But from a long-term standpoint, true structural standpoint, health standpoint, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to start training.
Next question comes from Mark Sanchez.
Hey, Max. Mark Sanchez from the New York Post. Welcome and congrats. Kind of off of that, typically pitchers and any player declines with age. Your velocity has been the same. Your ERA was a career best last year. Why do you think you've gotten better, and what gives you the belief that this will continue?
I really try to focus on being the best athlete as possible, of training my body to be not just a pitcher, but try to be an athlete in everything that you do. And so for me, being explosive, being able to jump, being able to, be able to lift heavy weight, be able to do everything that you need to be able to do, run, sprint. For me, I look at it as I got to be able to do it all if I want to be the best version of myself. And so I feel like that's been my formula of how to be durable and be having success at the same time. And because I'm always out there, I'm always making my posts. I might lose some ball games, might give up some homers. I can sure give up a solo shot with anybody. But you rather always want to be out there. And when you're out there, able to compete, even when you lose, you're able to at least learn something from those mistakes and make yourself a better pitcher. So for me, it's kind of a total package of being durable, being out there, be explosive, and I feel like that's why I'm able to still pitch as well as I have, even at this age, and why I absolutely believe that I can still do this for another 3 years. That was very important to me.
Do you see this as the last contract of your career, or have you put any thought into that?
Honestly, getting down to this, the answer is no. having my family be here at home, or my home there in Jupiter, being able to keep them at home, keep them in school. Crazier things have happened. I don't know. By the time I'm 40, at the end of this, I'll be 40. Who knows what life looks like at that point? I'm not going to make a decision on that, but the way I feel, I definitely feel like, I still got something left in the tank. And from my mindset, I have the mindset today that, I'm going to play as long as I can.
McCullough, your line is open.
Hey, just a question for Steve. We've heard from Max and Scott about some of the labor stuff. I'm just curious, do you agree with what they have to say that, the rules need to change to incentivize teams to compete?
Well, listen, I'm going to leave it to the commissioner and the negotiating team to figure that out. I frankly haven't been as involved with the labor stuff, more involved with the team. And so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Barry Bloom, we'll come to you next. Your line's open.
Max, good to see you guys again. Hey, was a couple of questions. Number one, was there any overtures or any offer from the Dodgers for you to remain out in LA? And getting back to what you were saying about going over capacity, did Game 5 of the NLDS, closing that game, put you out over there, or was it a composite overtime that started at the end of the season?
How I reflect upon the Game 5 and how I was used, and my conversations with Doc and Freeman, that I had done that in 2019 in the World Series run. And I pitched a wild card game, had made a relief appearance, made a couple more starts, and was able to do that. I thought I was in the same position to be able to do that here in 2021. I just thought, reflecting upon that, in Washington, I was asked to pitch on the 5-day and pitch 100, 110 pitches consistently. I was stepped on all the time, and I loved it. Like I was built up to a much higher kind of work capacity in DC. So when I got asked to do that, I felt like my arm could respond to that. And rightfully so with the Dodgers, there was major concern to protect Walker and Julio's innings. And I 100% support that. We made decisions to give extra days out on a consistent basis and watch our pitch counts for the postseason. I just feel like that lowered my work capacity so that when I tried to do the 2019 formula of being able to pitch out of the pen, my arm wasn't able to respond to that because I came from a lower pitch count, per se. And so that's why I didn't get hurt. That's why I didn't hurt myself. But I was definitely compromised from trying to execute what I was trying to do in 2019. So you learn something new every time. Never thought in a million years. I've never asked the manager for the ball and gotten hurt like that, or not be able to make my next start. That's just never happened to me. In all of my years of pitching, you can ask all my managers. If I tell you I can go, I can go. This was the first time I ran into something like that where I really thought I could do something and it didn't show up. And so, that's where I went. It took me a while to search through that. Like, what happened? What was the difference? Why was I not able to execute the 2019 postseason plan? And that's what I came to.
What about the Dodgers?
And what?
Did the Dodgers make you an offer, or what happened with that?
Yeah, I mean, today's about the New York Mets. Today's not about the Dodgers. At some other point in time we can talk about that, but today's about the New York Mets fans.
Max, thank you. Before we take the final couple of questions, I believe we'll go for the virtual visual moment. I believe you've been handed your new cap.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't mind putting that on.
There we go.
Looks great. Thank you very much. Next up, we'll go to Matthew Roberson.
Hi, Max. Matthew Robertson with the New York Daily News. The Mets, as you know, still do not have a manager. There's been some pretty public dysfunction with the team in recent years. Knowing all that, what made you still want to sign here?
I think from the baseball standpoint, everybody was a good baseball candidate. It's just some unforeseen things happen. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you go through the process again. I mean, who knows what you can find out today? I mean, we go back through and look at everybody's past. I mean, who knows what you can find. So try not to really get caught up in just because it's happened here a couple times, and just move on from it and trust that Billy has the process to be able to find the next candidate, and have my faith that he can do that.
And then for Steve and Billy, how is the managerial search coming along?
I'll throw that to Billy.
Yeah, definitely have a list of candidates, a pretty wide one right now, and we're walking through some of the criteria that we're looking for in that manager. And as we weight that criteria, I think some of those names will be people that we call and ask for permission on, or speak to because they're maybe not with a particular club right now, but definitely a conversation that I'll be having with Steve probably later today or tomorrow morning, and kind of walk through that with him. And I've had a couple different volleys already with Sandy on the subject, and so it's coming through, and we'll start to the process of actually formally interviewing people very soon.
Dennis Young, your line is open.
Hi, Max. I have two questions for you here. The first is that you mentioned that this contract is on the backs of other labor leaders or other big deals that came before. Is there anything a contract like this can do for players who don't get the mega deal, maybe smaller free agents or those who can't even hit free agency?
Right. For me, I've always looked at, there's top-down economics and bottom-up economics, and that they both work in kind of tandem, and that when you continue to move the market as a whole, everybody kind of moves up together. When certain parts of the market don't function well, then it drags down the whole kind of player market. So it might not be a straight one-for-one, comparable, but it can work. It can trickle down throughout the rest of the player salaries. That as guys continue to move up, everybody kind of continues to move up, and so that's the system we have. That's the free market system that we have, and that's what we live by. I know for fans it's probably hard to kind of understand that, but when you're a player, you really get to see it on a kind of player by player basis when you're in different clubhouses of guys who push the market, what that does for other players as well. And so, like I said, I've been a beneficiary of that, been a big beneficiary of many players before me going out and fighting for those deals and fighting for those extra years. That gives me the position to continue that fight. And so, I'm happy to do it, and hopefully that helps out, future players as well. And that's something that's always been important to me.
We will have time for a final question. Pat Ragazzo, your line's open.
Hey, Max, Pat Ragazzo of Sports Illustrated. Welcome to New York and congratulations. You've obviously pitched here for a number of years as a visitor for the Nationals and Dodgers, so I assume you're very familiar with the atmosphere that Citi Field brings, but how enticing is it to pitch in front of the home crowd and the rabid fan base that, that Mets fans bring?
Yeah, it's been fun to come in here and have everybody going nuts against you. And so, the Mets fans, they got a nice blue collar approach. They really let you have it. So it'll be nice to be able to flip the script this time and have them actually cheering for me. So, if you just go out there and produce and you go out there and have fun, the fans always seem to have fun with you as well.
Max, we want to thank you very much, you and Scott.
Daniel Batista, el más duro, la máquina deportiva. Tu maldita Daniel va a seguir.